Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1. How are you guys doing?
Doing
We're
great,
good.
man.
Doing great.
It's dog days of summer. We got football right around the corner. Nothing's better than that.
I know he's ready. The Eagles hat is ready to go.
I'm ready. I just couldn't put the Phillies hat on because they're collapsing. So,
Disappointed. I
Oh,
know. I was
yes.
telling Andrew before we started here that I thought they do more than just 1 out of 4 in Arizona. I mean, a little disappointed.
You would think, but
Yeah.
here we are.
Yes, here we are. That's for sure. We're going to get into all that stuff. So,
Yeah,
I'm,
for sure.
I'm Andrew. This is my co-host Brad Sistad, producer and co-host Brad Dalius, and we are going to be talking sports with a focus on New York and Philly, and also the culture of sports fanhood, which basically is how we got started. So Brad Sistad and I, and we're going to figure out a shorthand to determine which Brad we're talking to. We're going to figure that out as we go. But basically, Brad Sistad and I would have phone conversations while on the road as salespeople, and we'd talk for like an hour, and we'd pretty much have just like ridiculous conversations. And eventually, after years of you suggesting we should do a podcast, I was like, you know what, we should do a podcast, just because your emotional perspective and my like ultra reserved, like to a ridiculous extent perspective, kind of creates this really like funny back and forth, yet we never get upset with each other. And then we really needed someone that knows the digital technical stuff, the digital stuff, and also knows how to communicate and guide us through this, because we have no idea what we're doing. So that's where Brad Dalius came in. We also have the experience of working a sports talk radio show together back in college. So
Yeah.
something that we always wanted to circle back on.
Yeah. Back in the day. I see. Ithaca. That was like, what, 10 years ago now? Wow.
It's crazy.
I've heard
I
clips
can't
of
believe
that
it.
show and pretty impressed, I gotta say.
I've shown you clips of that show.
Yeah. Bomber Nation. I remember.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bomber Nation,
Yeah, we
Yeah. So
With
our
players, coaches, you name it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so our banter is always pretty wild, pretty fun. But I just so everybody kind of knows my like I guess passion for doing something like this would come from just where I grew up. So I grew up in Toms River, New Jersey, which is a decent-sized town in Ocean County, and it's really like right in the middle of central New Jersey. And I know people say that central Jersey doesn't exist for some reason. Like, obviously it exists. There's a center of everything. People say there's only a North Jersey and a South Jersey, which is just preposterous. There's a center of the room that I'm in right now, central office. But anyway, when I was a kid, it's actually a little bit closer to Philadelphia than New York, Toms River is. So when I was a kid, I grew up loving like Allen Iverson, and my dad was a really big Flyers fan, and then the Eagles were really good at that time, early 2000s. So there was really no New York fans like kind of anywhere when I grew up. And over the past like 20 or so years, people from northern New Jersey have been migrating down south to my home turf, and I still live down here. So it's interesting. It's been, when I was a kid, 75% Philadelphia fans has now completely shifted the opposite way, to where now I'm very much the minority in my area. So I've developed this real kind of like serious hatred for all New York sports, and no matter how mature I become in all other aspects of my life, again, we were just talking, I'm a father of 2, been a homeowner for however many years, married for 6 years, I will just never let go of this childish hatred for all things New York sports.
Also, your childish pessimism for your teams.
Yes, so that's another big reason for it. Actually, let me kind of tell you the backstory of what exactly sparked the idea for us doing this. So a couple weeks back, and it's funny, I have the emotional pulse of fans, whereas Andrew has the numbers and the analytical pulse of what's going on in the actual game. So a couple weeks back, I don't really pay that much attention to the American League. I watch a lot of Phillies, obviously, and I'll catch a game here and there, but I'm not paying very close attention every day. So a couple weeks back, I'm kind of just scrolling through Twitter. I turn on the radio every now and again. I work with a lot of like New York sports fans, and they're all just like really whining and complaining and bitching about the Yankees. They're saying, "Oh my God, they're so bad. I've never seen a team so bad in my life." So I'm like, okay, and I've kind of just hear this going on in the background for like a week or so. So I'm thinking, all right, let me check the standings, because they must be like really bad for them to be talking like this. And they were tied for the third best record in baseball, and they were like a half a game out of the number one seed, not just first place in their division, the number one seed in the American League. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, these people would not last a day being a fan of anything Philadelphia. And just the kind of like the entitlement, this is New York, we need to fire Aaron Boone, we need to fire the general manager. It's like all this guy does is put together contending teams for you every year. I don't think you should be complaining because your team lost like 6 out of 8 games in July. So that was I think, the idea that really sparked it. And that's when Andrew said, "Hey, let's do a podcast." And I said, "Fine, let's do it, because I'm going to let the world hear my hatred for New York." So I'm a pretty big hater, and I'm pretty emotional sports fan.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all of that for sure. It's also funny because, like, you'll tell me things like, everyone, New York Yankee fans or Knicks fans are saying this, and I'm like, oh, they are? Oh, okay. I have no idea what the fan base is saying.
Yes.
I watch the games. I know the stats. I know the players. I don't pay attention to it. I don't, like, I go on Twitter, but, like, I don't, like, go in, like, a deep dive. If I see someone, like, ranting, I don't pay attention to it. And it's just a complete opposite. But it does lead to some very funny conversations. And as a New York sports fan, it's also a little bit different, because in New York we have so many teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's true in LA, and I believe those were the only 2 cities where that's the case.
Chicago.
Chicago too. You're right. But even Chicago, it's not all sports.
Yeah, just 2 baseball teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in New York, it's like you got the Giants, the Jets, the Mets, Yankees, so on, Knicks, Nets, whatever, and, if you count the Nets. But you got all these teams, so it's like even in New York, you have these fans that feel like they're rivals against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got it's a very interesting dynamic. But I happen to not be a fan of a lot of the teams that you hate.
That is true.
Mainly the Giants. There's no team you hate more than the Giants.
There is
right?
no team that I hate more than the New York Giants.
And it's the fans, not the team.
It is absolutely the fans. And listen, obviously this goes without saying. I'm sure there's great Giants fans out there. There's emotion. You're right.
You don't need to say that. Don't
right.
do that.
Yeah, you're probably right. No, my experience with Giants fans is that they all, you can kind of tell who's a Giants fan and a Jets fan, like just by kind of looking at them, like even if they're not wearing any football gear, you could kind of.
Jets fans are pessimistic and they have no confidence in
Right.
the team they root for. Yeah,
right.
course.
But the irrational, entitled confidence of I think they call them like the Big Four, right? They call them, it's the Yankees, the Giants, the Rangers, and the Knicks, right? So you happen to be the odd man out where you happen to root for the Jets, whereas most people who root for the other 3 teams that you root for the Giants, right? It's typically Jets, Mets, Nets, Islanders, Devils, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the irrational confidence of Giants fans around here. I remember specifically the 2015. I also have a very good memory with this kind of stuff. Like I could pull games and stuff just out of my ass. So 2015, it was the famous boat trip game, right? Who could forget? The Giants and all their receivers go down to Miami the week before. They were going to Green Bay. They were going to play the Packers in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And they went down to Miami. Listen, I think that's totally fine. Like, go have fun. You're rich. Go to Miami, spend the day with your teammates, and come back. And, like, you know, you don't have to be sitting watching film training for 24 hours a day. Like, have your fun. But I just remember the talk of the town that week. And if you remember, and again, I just remember because Giants fans don't let you forget, because they thought they were the best team ever. And if you watch that game, like, they probably had a negative point differential. They would just squeak by these teams like a lucky sack fumble or pick six. They make the playoffs, and they were clamoring for Green Bay. They were saying, oh, we want Green Bay. We want to go to Green Bay. This is what we do. Because 6 years ago, we went to Green Bay and we beat Aaron Rodgers. And then 4 years before that, like, we beat Brett Favre. As if there's any correlation between then and now. So, like, this is what they're beating their chest. This is what we do. We're going for the Super Bowl. And I think they lost like 38-3 or something like that. Like, just got totally embarrassed on TV. And then 2 years out, then they started getting really bad, right? 2 years after that is the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And I always say, like, the second best thing about the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl is that the Giants went 3-13. So I'll never have a year as happy as that as a fan ever again. I mean, the Eagles were so good, the Giants were so bad, and it was heaven on earth.
It's been like all or nothing with them, right? I mean,
yes,
it's cut and dry. By the way, how about going to Miami and celebrating after you win?
Right.
There's a concept, right?
Yeah. But I mean, even a couple years ago. So again, the year the Eagles just went to the Super Bowl, they didn't win, but that was the Daniel Jones led them to the playoffs, and they beat Minnesota in the playoff game. And same thing, they're just sticking their chests out saying, oh, we want Philadelphia. It's like they just came to Philadelphia and got their asses kicked. It's like, did you watch a snap of football at all that year? Like, it's totally cool to be excited that your team is doing well, your team is overachieving, but, like, I don't know, I just think a Philadelphia, or anyone, a reasonable, logical fan in that kind of situation would just say, hey, this is a lot of fun. Like, who knows? This team's a lot better than us, but, like, hey, you never know. Like, let's see what happens. But instead,
but you don't do that.
Of course,
you're the opposite. You're the opposite.
Yes,
you do the opposite, which is equally annoying by most people's standards. So Brad
some people
Dalius,
might think that.
This is what he does.
Yeah.
Like, so the Sixers will be going to the playoffs, right? Last year, and you know they had an Embiid injury, and he's the last 2 months of the season he's just saying, oh, it's over. What's the point? I don't even know why I watch this game. This team, they're gonna lose.
That never
they're gonna lose in the first.
He never gets hurt.
They're gonna lose in the first round. Maybe they'll make it to the second round. Just who cares? And like, he does that, you know, every time we talk. It talks about how it's over.
Falling.
So you got the annoying fan who's like overly confident, ridiculous, and then you got this guy who's just gonna act like the team's horrible, and then he's gonna complain about Yankee fans that are upset about their team going through a struggle. While he was just doing that about the Phillies, and they're in first place by 7.5 games in the division. So
yeah, this is true.
These
days, I used to be like the extreme, like I'm riding or dying on every little, every play, every down with football or any sport for that matter. Now, I would say today, I'm not overly optimistic. I'm not overly pessimistic either. I'm more so just somewhere in the middle that, oh, okay, well, it's like, we'll get him tomorrow. A loss happens, a loss here, a loss there. Like, we'll get him next week. It's too somewhat optimistic, just not overly optimistic. More of a realist.
Well, you're a Dynasty Pats fan.
Well, this is true. That is the disclaimer with me that there's been a lot of celebrating. So, now we're going through some lean years, and I'm obviously no one.
But
no
that's
one feels
but that's
bad
interesting.
At
A
all
lot.
about
I
that.
know. Like, I talked to a lot of Pats fans who are like, they're acting like, oh my god, how could this team's terrible? I can't take this. And it's
Yeah,
like,
no,
you
I
guys
don't
just
get
saw
it.
20 years. Like,
Yeah.
relax.
Right, I don't get
know?
that, and it's the same Pats fans too. They were saying some Pats fans hated the draft. I'm like, what are you talking about? This was like one of the best drafts they've had in a decade plus. This past
Chime
Well,
in.
listen,
Chime in on that.
Nobody knows draft coverage better than me, man. Just wait till February, March of next year, and we'll get into some real good draft talk.
We always mock draft coverage specifically, and this is for like all sports, but specifically for the NFL and NBA, where everybody acts like they're an expert on each player, and like this guy's gonna go here, and you have like 30 mocks. It's the whole coverage.
Most
is
people
absurd.
don't even watch college. That's the thing. Like
Even if you do, how do you? If you watch
true.
10 college games a year, you're gonna watch this. Like, what does that do? You don't know anything about the players.
Right, and that's one of the big things I learned, like when I first got into sports, especially like football. I grew up a Penn State fan, so I was always pretty much equally into college as I was NFL. But as time went on, I realized that most people were either one or the other, or mostly NFL.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I don't consider myself a draft profile expert on next year's.
No one is though. There's just the people that pretend to be. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I
and
know,
that's
it's
the
crazy.
thing about
it's
it.
nuts. Yeah, no one's. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is gonna make episode 1 or not, but like it's kind of not super relevant in today's day and age. But yeah, I think the thing that drives me most nuts about draft coverage is like even if you scouted this kid and you watched every year of his college career, like you have no idea how he's gonna be in the pros. So it's like I can give you an example of 100 first-round busts, and I can give you an example of 100 sixth-round steals that are great players.
Well,
so
I
it's
think-
like nobody knows anything.
think
Why
you
are we
have
spending
some-
so much time doing this? Like,
I don't think it's a
all
matter of no
crapshoot.
one knows anything. I think like there's front offices and scouts that spend their lives scouting and looking up stats and metrics and all this stuff, and that it gives them an inclination. I don't think it means that doesn't mean they know, but I don't think they know nothing.
Yeah.
I just think the media coverage of it is
Yes.
just people are just making stuff up.
yes.
Because you can't take any like the mainstream guys, Mel Kiper, Stephen A. Smith, all these guys, like you can't have all these different media jobs and be on the air, be doing this and that, and really be diving through all the film and all the stats. It's just not enough time to do that.
Yeah.
You can't.
So we touched on them a little bit, but so Philly's collapse is of course on the ticket.
I want to talk about that for sure.
Yankees surge, because obviously they're playing like historically one of the, the other crazy thing about like the two races is that like when the Yankees were really bad, the Orioles were also really bad, and the same thing's happening with the Phillies and the Braves right now. It's like
That's not a race, but that's not a race. One's actually a
But
race,
same-
but keep going.
Right, same
Keep
concept though. Like if the Phillies were playing 500 baseball right now, they'd be 15 games up, and the division would be
Yeah,
over.
I understand.
But
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Right. So, anyway, Phillies collapse, Yankees surge, Haason Reddick, and USA basketball. I don't think we've talked about any of the medal games, and I thought they were awesome, and I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. But Haason Reddick is holding out again, so I mean, yeah, whatever direction you guys want to go.
All right, I love all three topics. I think we should talk about all of them.
There's 4, but okay.
There's 4? There's a fourth? What was the
Well, the
US?
Yankees and the Phillies were separate, but
Oh, I took that as one. Okay.
okay. All right. So let's go. What do you
All
want
right,
to talk about first?
let's start with Haason Reddick,
Okay.
because I think this kind of ties into my whole thing about like how silly sports fans are, and how we all have to like blame someone. Basically, sports fandom mimics what happens in society and then exaggerates it. So when something goes wrong in society in general, people they feel this emotional need to blame someone. It's someone's fault. It's something someone did. Instead of trying to understand this is what's happening, how do we resolve it, they just want to blame someone. So it's the same thing. So everyone now jumps. How did Joe Douglas make this trade? Like, fire him, get rid of him. Like I've actually been seeing it on Twitter. I've actually been seeing it. I listened to WFAN in the car for like 5 minutes today.
Oh god.
And like it's just the nonsense they're talking about.
Well, this kind of stuff doesn't fly in New York, baby. I mean, this is the Big Apple.
Yeah, and everyone. So the Jets make this trade, right? He wanted a contract from the Eagles. Sorry, you're well aware of this. They trade him to the Jets. According to sources, the Jets were told by his representatives that he was going to report without a new contract, and then they'd figure out a new contract. The idea the Jets were thinking was they were going to give him more money up front, and without giving him like a long-term deal. That's what I've seen being reported out there. Now, I don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't know how much conversation there was between Joe Douglas and his representatives. We don't know. But what we do know is the Jets traded a 4th-round pick for him. 4th round, I think, right?
It's a conditional 3rd-round pick, so it could turn into a 2nd-rounder.
Do we know what the condition is? Should we look that up?
We could probably look it up.
Anyway, and now he's still in that same contract situation and holding out, right? So what do the Jets do? So they're standing pat, not giving him the contract. Today he requests a trade. Then Joe Douglas comes out and says we're not trading him, and he's going to continue to be fined per the CBA.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this get resolved, right? So what are the options here? The Jets trade him, which they get less than they gave up back. So what are we talking about? Like a 5th, 6th, 7th,
mm-hmm.
some meaningless draft pick at this point, especially for a win-now team.
Mm-hmm.
They waited out, and he eventually returns. They waited out, and he misses the entire season, which then they have his rights for the next year, which doesn't really make sense for him anyway. If he wants a long-term contract, sitting out a whole year doesn't really work. You know, he might try that. Le'Veon Bell did it.
How'd that work
and
out?
it didn't work out for Le'Veon Bell.
Not so good.
Well, he got his contract.
Yeah, but it was
He was
a
never the
bad
same
one.
player.
Yeah.
It just.
No, I know. From that aspect, yeah, it didn't work out. And then, am I missing one?
Missing an outcome?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Jets stand pat, and he eventually shows up.
Right.
I didn't say that one, which might be the most likely.
I think it probably is. What sucks for him is that, I mean, he was really good with Philadelphia. So they signed him, I think it was around 3 years, like $45 million, like way under his, not his market value at the time, but he ended up having an amazing year in 2022. I think he had like 18 and a half sacks. So after that season, he wanted a new contract right after that. He just completed year 1 of a 3-year deal, and he wants a new contract. The Eagles, they don't do that to anybody because it just sets a precedent moving forward, because now everybody's going to want a new deal after having one good year on their contract. Yep. So he held out. He ended up showing up. He had another very good year. Not quite as good, but he had I think 11 and a half sacks or something like that. So now he wants to get paid. The only thing with him is his age. I mean, if he's going to be 30 this year, if I'm not mistaken. And these guys, these edge rushers, cornerbacks, just ask James Bradbury, they fall off a cliff, man. And he might have one more good year in him, but I think the sticking point for Philadelphia was that he wanted the longevity, and they don't want to be paying a 32-year-old edge rusher who doesn't have it anymore $25 million a year. So I think that's that's the sticking point for him, and it sucks for him because I'm sure I was texting you all 2022, if this guy's name was Micah Parsons in 2022, he would be the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year vote because he was just so goddamn good that year. But what do you do? What do you do if you're the Eagles? You just paid the guy. He wants a new contract. It's you just agreed to this 8 months ago. So you're not even through the first year of your contract, and you want to get paid. I understand, but it's wild to me that I'm sure they did, but like that this didn't get ironed out on the front end, like before being traded to the Jets. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't know. I'm assuming every trade scenario is different, but like how much conversation is there between the player representatives and the acquiring general manager front office? How much are they like? We have an unwritten we have an agreement in place, like a gentleman's agreement,
Handshake agreement. Yeah.
Like how much of that is, one, happens, and two, what does it actually mean? So I there's just so much, like, I don't know. It's a really bad situation for the Jets. There's no question about that. I mean, you gave up a draft pick. You're a team that's win now mode. Obviously, you let Bryce Huff go to the Eagles.
Yeah, that's the other factor, which is interesting.
Great, very interesting scenario.
Yeah.
They don't want to give him the contract that they could have just given Bryce Huff.
Right. It's almost as if the Eagles might have had some insider intel.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's worked out for the Eagles. I mean, we'll see how they play and stuff, but I think he's going to end up showing up eventually, because like at some point getting fined, I don't know what it's like, $50K, or it's like crazy, $50K a day or something.
Yeah.
Which I get it. Like, yeah, he just had he's made $15 million the last 2 years. He's probably fine, but I mean, he obviously wants the big contract. So he'll probably show up at some point. Now, how is he going to be in, like,
that's what I'm going to say. Is he going to pout? Yeah, he's going to pout.
Is he going to be? Yeah. It's a really tough situation. I just don't see trading him as a realistic resolution. Like, basically, you're just going to say, okay, we had enough. Let's move on.
Yeah. It's always so tricky with the NFL because the injuries are so prevalent. That like any other sport, this guy just comes to work. He has a really good year and he gets a contract the next year. But yeah, it's like, what do you do? I mean, that's what he's ultimately going to have to do, because if he does want a deal, no one's going to give him a deal if he sits out. If he sits out for a long time, or like the entire year, or if he comes back and pouts and has a bad year, like, you're not getting a contract either way.
He's hurting his value.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you might as well come to work, put up a great year, and then go get your deal with anybody.
But on the opposite end of that is he comes back, plays badly, or gets hurt, and I mean, I understand why he wants a big contract. He's probably hoping the Jets cave.
Yeah. But I mean, at least if he comes back and plays badly again, he's probably making $15 million this year. So at least you get $15 million this year instead of negative $50,000 every day from now until the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
So we'll see. In Joe Douglas, we trust. Love that guy, man. That guy put together the Eagles.
I do like Joe Douglas.
Roster.
I do like Joe Douglas. Yeah.
And he did it again. I think that
I'm
pulling for you, man. I am pulling for the Jets.
Let's not say he did it again until they actually are good.
Yeah.
I know we got the Pats fan here. He's waiting for the
Jets.
Yeah,
he's
He's like there's no way.
He's seething.
He knows it's gonna happen.
Well,
he knows there's some way Rodgers or something will go wrong.
The Rodgers thing last year really was, I mean, maybe for one of the first times ever, I felt really bad, genuinely bad.
Dude, I felt sick to my stomach when I saw that.
Just absolutely brutal. Who roots for that? Like, who feels good about that?
Oh, there's people that do, for sure.
I mean, it's just sick. I mean, come on. You got to feel a little bit.
Hold on. If the Giants had Rodgers, you wouldn't have been happy that he got hurt. But you would have been. No. You don't root for injury. Sure. I don't.
No. You don't.
No,
but if it's the Giants, you do.
If it's the Giants, I would feel bad for the player. But would I feel optimistic?
You would not feel bad. You would not feel bad for the fans. You would love to see the fans' reaction.
I would not feel bad for the fans. I would feel bad for the quarterback, and I would feel like, hey, when the Eagles play them twice this year, it's probably going to be an easier game. So
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
There's that. But I do not root for injuries.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
All right. What do you want to talk about next? We got to get our, we're going to edit this out and we'll work on our segues. But for now, I'm just going to ask you what you want to talk about next.
That's fine. I'm good with that. All right. The Phillies. And let's tie it into the Yankees both.
Okay,
So,
sure.
So what's your take on the Phillies again? Remind me.
So my take on the Phillies, and Brad, just so you know, like, what's a good percentage? I would say 40% of the time that I text Andrew these emotional outbursts, maybe 40's high, but 25% of the time I'm like totally joking and I'm like trolling him, you know. So my
Give a home run to the Marlins. You're gonna give a home run to the
right,
Marlins?
exactly. So my true thoughts on the Phillies right now is, yeah, I think they're going through exactly what the Yankees went through a couple of weeks ago. I think that they're a good team. I think that they're playing really bad baseball right now. And I think that it's everybody. Just like what the Yankees did a few weeks back. I remember listening to the radio, a couple podcasts, and they were just saying, oh, they can't do anything. They can't hit. They can't field. Their starting pitching is so bad. Their bullpen, like they're losing ways in every way possible. Where like, you know, you take a step back and like you just think this is just a long baseball season. Baseball's really long. It's 162 games, and teams are going to go through rough stretches. Like if you had told me on March 29th when the season started, hey, August 12th, the Phillies are going to be 7.5 games up. They're going to have like this, they're going to be tied for the best record in the National League, and they have like a top 5 run differential. I would say, sign me up, please, for the love of God. The Braves have absolutely owned the Phillies for the past however many years. And yeah, this has been really frustrating, but I think that they can turn it around. I think they will, right? I think that they're all kind of in a bad stretch right now. And baseball's weird like that, you know? Like the bats get really cold and in a couple of weeks they'll heat up. And I remember, again, watching that Yankee series. It was, you know, what, they lose to the Red Sox on that Friday night. And then they beat the Red Sox in extra innings on Saturday. And they haven't looked back, right? They put up an 11 spot. They beat them the next day. Then they absolutely destroyed the Phillies in that 3-game series. And Jazz Chisholm has been an amazing pickup for them, which who could have seen that coming?
You never know.
And yeah, I think they're rolling right now. I mean, you know, the difference with the Phillies, they just had a brutal road trip. So they're coming back home. They're really good at home. They've been really good at home over the past couple of years. So hopefully they could just start.
It's also an easy schedule coming up. They have the Marlins and they have the Nats. They have like 6 against the Marlins and Nats combined. So
yeah. And the stretch they just had was brutal. I mean, they lost a series to like Oakland,
Seattle, Dodgers, Arizona. Yep.
Yeah, Yankees, Seattle, Cleveland right before that. So like, yeah, it's been a really tough stretch. Those are good teams, and yeah, would have loved to see a couple more wins, a couple more series splits, but here we are again, back home. Got a day off today, so hopefully they could just start to get on the right path here. I mean, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Once August hits, it's like there's only 6 weeks left, so you really got to start to pick it up now. Yeah, August is a weird month, man. When we were talking about it before, it's like you kind of don't want to see the summer go, but you're also like kind of excited for fall. That's kind of how I feel like.
Oh, I love fall.
Right,
I love fall.
I bet you do.
Can't beat it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? You bet I do?
I don't know. Just cold. You don't have to feel bad about staying inside. I know you like to stay inside, and.
Oh yeah, I feel bad for staying inside.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah.
All right.
Look,
so what do you think?
With the August, it's due like early to mid-August, right? So it's like as long as you're treading water, at least from the Phillies' perspective, I think they're gonna be okay. Just don't let the bottom fall out, right? I mean, that's kind of I think the main thing here. I mean, as long as they're treading water and they get to the end of the month, you know, heading into September, they should still be okay. But look, it's talking about this series against Arizona. I think it's probably a repeat of a preview of the NLCS.
Yeah,
which
that was like
at
PTSD nightmare scenario.
At the moment, the Phillies have some work to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any question about it. But
yeah,
It's probably
We'll
going to be
get some
these two
pitchers
teams.
back. They're going to get Ranger back. And yeah, I think they're just going through a little rut right now.
Yeah.
But I'm going to choose to be optimistic. I'm going to practice what I
What is
preach.
this?
I don't know. I guess I'm
What is-
feeling pressure from being on the podcast here. No,
we have to cancel. It's too optimistic.
I really, again, just bird's eye view. Like, today's a good day to just be off for them. Yeah, I think they're going to be okay. Again, I think they just had a tough schedule. They had a tough road trip. They had some really tough opponents. Bats are cold right now. All it takes is one game, one series, like what the Yankees did in Boston just a couple weeks back, and they've been on fire ever since. And they're probably destroying the White Sox right now because they get to play the White Sox. Like, that's what the Phillies need, is a trip to the south side of Chicago to go beat up on the White Sox. That would be great.
Them and
It's
every
incredible
other
how-
team in the world right now.
It's incredible how bad they are. It's amazing.
Yeah.
By the way,
But you know what, dude? Their fans are. So I lived in Chicago for a year, and I actually went to a couple White Sox games, and their fans are like very, very intense. Even when they're bad, they're super, super into the
Yes.
game. But is
the
that
five
game in
fans
Chicago?
the five fans you were around, yes, you know
That's
exactly
right.
what White
That's
Sox
right.
fans are like. Yes.
That's right. Yep. Them and Orioles fans, mad respect.
Yes, 10 Orioles fans. Now you
That's
really
right.
know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That series is in Chicago. And we're actually
So-
recording this on Monday, August 12th, so if you don't know what game we're talking about. The Yankees are losing right now, 2-1.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Season's over.
I gotta fire Aaron Boone, man. Oh my God.
Yeah. Send
All right.
Volpe out.
So what are your thoughts on the Yankees? Other than that, they're great and they're gonna be in the ALCS. Like,
Do you-
I'll just
they
add
just
real
roll
quick,
out
it
of
must have
bed
been
and they're
good
in
to
the
see.
ALCS every year. Like, they
must-
just.
They didn't
Yeah,
even make the
they
playoffs
do.
last year. There's 3 wild cards and didn't even make the playoffs last year.
It's true.
They're in the LCS
Do you-
every year.
You have to feel good about DJ LeMahieu, though, getting a little bit of confidence back with the walk-off last week.
Yeah, he's done. Like I'm very patient.
There's
with
like a little
players.
bit left. There has to be a little
No,
bit
he's
left there. in the tank.
he's done. He's I've been like people that I'm in a baseball chat and I've been like defending DJ LeMahieu for years, and like he is done. He can't move. He can't play. He can't play the field really other than first base anymore, and he can't hit. He can't hit for power, and he looks like he's done. Like right now, he looks like he's a first base defensive replacement until Rizzo gets back, and the only reason why he's going to be on the roster probably past then is because he's they're paying him $17 million, and because he could theoretically step in at third base if Jazz goes down or if Jazz needs to move around or something. No, DJ LeMahieu is not a positive aspect of the Yankees. What's great about the Yankees is that they have these 2 amazing players, these 2 amazing hitters. I mean, really though, Soto and Judge is the best 1-2 punch I've seen. I mean, it's really incredible. I mean, Judge especially. I mean, he's like significantly better than he was when he hit 60, the 60 plus or whatever it was. 60
And that's
home runs the
saying
other year.
something. That really is incredible.
It's incredible.
to
It's
say.
incredible. It's really incredible. But that's what the Yankees are good because, or Yankees are great because they have 2 amazing players in their lineup.
Yes.
And for the most part, the pitching for the most of the season has been very good. It's been struggling recently. The bullpen's a problem. The Yankees have weaknesses. Like the Yankees have 2 amazing players that cover up a lot of their weaknesses as an offense. And the Jazz trade's been good. I'm not huge on Jazz. He's a slightly above average league average hitter. He's playing a new position. He runs very well, but like it's
But like you said before, though, regardless of the players in the mix here, like you said, the Yankees have flaws, but so does every other team in baseball right now.
Yeah,
like this
for
thing's
sure.
wide open, right?
Yeah, I think
No one's running away with it this year.
Well, I agree, and even if it wasn't, even if there's one team that was so much better with the playoff system, it doesn't really matter. Like the Diamondbacks and Rangers weren't that good last year. It doesn't even matter if you're much worse than the other teams. You just get in the playoffs. You just doesn't really matter.
Dude, the Phillies 2 years ago, man. The Phillies like snuck in on the second to last day of the year as the third wild card and got hot and went on a ride.
Yeah, the Phillies have like something about that core of their team like has repeatedly stepped up in the playoffs and like big homers, like Bryce Schwarber. There's something to that.
Yeah, they're kind of built for the playoffs, which is why if I were a Yankees fan, I'd be really optimistic. Like if you can get, like you don't win playoff games 11-3. Like you win playoff games 3-1. So if I got a good pitching staff and I got Judge and Soto as my 2-3, like let's go, man. Yeah, especially in that joke of a stadium.
But I think right now there's a lot of questions about the Yankees pitching staff. Like so for most of the season, when they kind of built this big lead or they were off to that crazy start, it was without Cole, but Lewis Hill was like pitching like the best pitcher in baseball. He hasn't been bad, but he's fallen off. Stroman was great. He's fallen off. Nestor was very good. He's fallen off. Like Rodon's been up and down throughout the season. His overall numbers are like fine, but not very good. And Cole, since he's been back, hasn't been that good. So it's not like this rotation's like something you'd be really confident in. You'd be hopeful in. And, like, there's a lot of time for it to straighten out, but it's not something right now that I look at and say, oh, they have a great rotation. And the bullpen's not very good. It's okay. So I think the Yankees are very good, but I don't know how anyone can go into the postseason feeling like, oh, yeah, the Yankees really confident. It's more of like they have a pretty good chance, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair way to look at it. And I think that you are a strange Yankees fan and you thinking that way. I think most of them feel entitled and that they need to have 125 wins.
Yes,
and
most of
that,
them do. Yes.
Yes.
It's like they are very upset. Like most Yankee fans I talk to want Cashman fired every year.
Yes.
And their expectation is that expectations you have to win the World Series and you have to. How could you lose to the Astros again? It's an unrealistic expectation.
Right.
Like
With that
I
being
expect
said,
the Yankees
though,
to be very good every year. Yeah.
With that being said, it has been 15 years, so I think some of it is warranted. The championship talk is warranted.
Yeah, I could not disagree more. I'm sorry.
It's really hard to win. It's really hard to win. Most teams haven't won in the last 15 years. Like there's more than half the league hasn't won in the last 15 years.
But it's the Yankees. 27 championships.
There is the entitlement that we do not like.
But he's not even a Yankees fan.
Side of the bridge. I know, but that's
just objectively.
It's the marketing. They made we grew up in like the 90s and early 2000s when the Yankees were either winning or they were like buying all the free agents. So they were outspending everyone. They were winning 100 games. So it's like the name, the brand. People think of as, oh, they have to win. They're the Yankees. That's what they win. They've won 27 World Championships. But the fact that they won 6 championships in the 50s and 4 in the 20s, like that means nothing right now. Like they were able to buy players then.
It's higher expectations. I mean,
there are higher expectations, and I think there should be to an extent. Right. To an extent, but the expectation should be like my expectation is that
the Cubs, for example. I mean, they're still good for, another decade plus. The fans are like, man, even if they suck, they're like, well, we still got it in 2016.
Oh, I see
what you're saying. Different expectations.
Are the Chicago Cubs fans? Do they say that really? Do you think they're cool with just not being that good this year? Like, oh yeah, we won in 2016.
I think
there is some of that to it. I do. I think
there might be some immediate frustration. Like we just, this sucks. We just bounced again in the first round in the wild card. But when they go home, they're like, yeah, but we do have 2016.
Oh, but that's
there's
different.
A lot of
making
that
the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I look at it as if the Yankees won 97 games and lost in the divisional round,
unacceptable.
I wouldn't. Right? No.
Yeah.
No.
So you and I have this. We have this argument about the 76ers, and You always say that they're contenders, they've got a top 5 player in the NBA, and they have some bad luck, whether it's injuries or they run into just a really good team. And I see both sides of it. But yeah, I mean, they roll out of bed and they're in the ALCS every year. This is why the typical Yankees fan brain, this is why they don't recognize
Why did
it.
they? But you're saying, at least say what you're saying, make it sure it's accurate. They roll out of bed. Okay, what did they do? They stayed sleeping last year. They didn't wake
Yes.
up. Okay.
Well, their best player got hurt. The best player in the world got hurt. So,
Yeah.
and they still won.
Hey.
They were still above 500. They had this horrible year, and they only won 82 games. Okay.
He's not the best player in the
You
world.
don't know what a bad year is, man.
I
As
get
a-
this
as a-
comparison though, because people used to say this about the Pats. They'd basically roll out of bed and they'd be in the AFC Championship game year after year.
And that was
I
true.
get it, but the
different.
difference is you still have to win the championship. Like
No,
you have
okay,
to
so-
you have to sprinkle it in. Like, I mean, to me, again,
sprinkle it in.
you have
A
just like
little
the Spurs
chocolate
did.
or rainbow.
Yeah. A little bit of both. You gotta have a good mix.
Oh, you can't have both. Come on.
But it's like it's the Spurs in the NBA and how they've won all these titles over the sustained success over a long period of time. To me, that's answering the bell over a long period of time where you have mixed in championships with also the winning the division, winning the conference title, etc. But you still have to win championships. To me, it's the Yankee. It's got to be that World Series or bust.
This is the
mentality.
flaw that I find. Now, I'm not telling people they shouldn't be like this. You are who you are. But, like, as a sports fan, yeah, okay. First of all, I watch sports as a form of entertainment, first and foremost. Secondly, I have an emotional attachment to these teams that I root for. But the emotional attachment, you're talking about the Sixers being in the playoffs and me saying you should be happy with it. Like, yeah, every year you're watching 82 games of a team being really good. Every game you get to look forward to the team being good. And then in the playoffs, the anticipation for playoff games, there's nothing like that as a sports fan. It's awesome. So if your team makes the second round, that's 6, 7 more, 8, 9, whatever, more 10, whatever, more playoff games you get to look forward to. Like this past spring with the Knicks and Rangers, that was an amazing run. They both fell short, but I don't look back and be like, oh my God, I'm so mad they didn't win a champ. No, that was an awesome run. Every night I had a really fun sports game going on to look forward to. I think that having something to watch and to think, to read about and to look into stats and to follow closely throughout an entire season and playoff run is what makes being a sports fan special. I don't think it's but for instance, you get to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, you lose. What does that really matter at that point? I'm not saying you didn't want your team to win, but you still had that same amount of enjoyment all season long. Now they win, and then, you want them to win, but once it's over, you still got that same amount of enjoyment over that period of time. Now, obviously, I just made up a ridiculous situation where you're losing Game 7 of the Finals, but my point is I think it's the ride that is better than the actual result.
I understand.
I can see that. I mean, it's all relative though, right? Because you make it to Game 7. I mean, think of Cleveland in 2016. You blow a 3-1 lead in the World Series, and you haven't won in 50 years, and you lose Game 7, and there is no championship to fall back on unless
I'm
you're
with you.
80
a really good
years
example.
old.
I think that is a good example, and I also think that but it's also okay. So two things. You're right. I agree with you, but it's also kind of proves my point. The reason why it hurts so much for Cleveland is because they're not good every year. That they go through these 70-win seasons. But if they were winning 90 games every year, it wouldn't be as bad because you still have the enjoyment of every season. But because they had 2-3 years where they're really good, 2-3 years where they're not very good, it hurts more. But what I'm saying regarding the Yankees to start this was, if they win 95 games, 97 games, and lose in the second round of the playoffs or divisional round, whatever it is, I don't view that as that was a bad season. I view it as, that was a really fun season.
Yeah, there's no shame from my perspective. I mean, there's no shame in losing to the Astros I mean, other than this year, they've been a buzzsaw for the past 8 years. So same thing with like the Warriors. You know, people want to knock LeBron James because he couldn't beat the Kevin Durant Warriors. It's like, what do you want him to do? It's the greatest team ever assembled. His
MJ would have beat him. MJ would have beat him.
Exactly.
Set off quick. I think bringing up LeBron, that's another good example with the Lakers, because I think there's been disappointment with Lakers fans the last couple of years. Yeah, they won the one title in 2020, but they're like, oh, that was in the bubble. It's like, it counts, but it's like,
it definitely counts.
We need a little bit more. That's been the Lakers fan. I mean, that's kind of been the Lakers fans' thoughts over the last, like, they should have won more.
That's stupid. That's silly. That's silly. They should look at their team and realize they are not even close to competing for the Western Conference, let alone the finals.
Right,
they're just not
upset
nearly good enough.
Right. And
what are they upset about?
It goes up and down the team there, the organization, for where the fault goes around, where the blame goes around. But I think it's similar.
Yeah, I think my rule of thumb with all of this, to put a bow on it, is I guess when you root for Philadelphia teams, you kind of feel like the little brother, right? You're in New York's shadow. You never really win anything. Since they have four.
New York teams don't win either. What?
Okay.
Philadelphia's had a lot more success during most of your fanhood.
I'm talking about winning. I'm talking about winning championships.
Yeah, winning championships.
Right. So
just two really from the Giants.
Two.
I mean, that's really been it.
Oh, you're saying from New York's perspective. Here's the thing.
Right.
I don't feel bad for the big brands that you haven't won a championship in a long time, because I grew up my whole life with you telling me how great you were, right? Like Lakers, Yankees, Cowboys, like I just don't feel bad for you. Listen, if you're 15 years old and you never saw your team win a championship, like that's different. But people who are our age and older, like, you don't get to complain, man. I'm sorry. Like, you saw your team win 5 Super Bowls in the 90s. You saw the Lakers win 5 championships when you were a teenager and in your early 20s. Like, that's it. You've had enough success for your whole life. Done.
They should send a request to you to see if it, depending on how many championships.
If it's okay to celebrate or be mad.
If it's okay to complain, yeah.
Yes.
You get your sign off.
That's right. No, listen, you can be frustrated, obviously, but like, yeah, there is the pain doesn't, it eases up. I mean, I've felt, listen, I'm still an emotional wreck about the Eagles, but I've absolutely gone down a notch since they won the Super Bowl. And
you told me you would never be upset again.
Okay, well, I might have lied.
No, I think you meant it at the time.
I probably did, but I was on an emotional high, baby. You know, I was feeling good. It was all good in the world. No, I think that I'm pretty good. Like, dude, for example, if they lost that Super Bowl to the Chiefs on the third down holding call on James Bradbury, which was like the worst call you've ever seen in your life, if like they had a 10-point lead at halftime, they were like minus 250, like a live bet to win that game. If they lost that Super Bowl and they hadn't won in 2017, like you probably would have never heard from me from that point on until now, because
throughout the whole city.
Dude, I remember I was watching with my dad and my brother, who are also obviously big Eagles fans, and like we were super bummed when they didn't win that game, but like we were kind of like we got one. Like Nick Foles, you know.
I think that was because it was close.
That's surprising to me.
Well, I think it was.
I think if they didn't win in 2017, like I would have been like breaking stuff. And since they did, just because it was such a horrible way to lose.
But the call
was bad. That too. And yeah, I just think it would have been a lot worse. Now, listen, talk to me in 35 years if I'm still alive and they haven't won. Like, you know, maybe it'll be a different conversation. But I think there's gray area, there's context, you know. Bottom line, no Lakers, no Yankees, no Cowboys, no Spurs. You're not allowed to complain about anything. Warriors, get the hell out of here. Like,
Throw Kansas
if
City
you
in
missed
there,
the
too.
playoffs last year, oh my God, I feel so bad for you. Like, the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Kansas City, by the way, they're totally in there.
Oh God, them too. I mean,
Easy.
I'm so sick of that. God. I'm so
Oh, I
sick of
think
the
I know.
Chiefs.
I think
They're another one.
by
They
the way,
roll out of bed and they're in the damn championship game
I-
every year. It's like,
I
we
think
get
I know
it. You're good. Cool.
I think I know a team that's close. That seems close to the Giants. Actually, you hate more than the Knicks, and this kind of could segue into your next topic. But the Celtics, you have a really burning hatred for the Celtics.
Burning hatred for the Celtics.
For sure.
I had called, so I remember the first year the Sixers were good was 2017-18. They made it to the second round of the playoffs. They lost to Boston in 5 games. Very close series, kind of like the Knicks series this year. Like, every game was really close. Could have gone either way. And I remember, they're another fan base that just doesn't know, like, just shut up. Like, you're not, why are you complaining? Like, I remember calling you on the phone, Andrew, and I think we were both working at Pella at the time. I called you and said, yo, this Celtics team, like, it's a wrap. Like, they're going to run the East for the next 10 years because they're all, like, Tatum and Brown are so good. And for whatever reason, like, people just ignored that and, like, didn't realize how good they were. And now everyone's acting like, oh, man, like, yeah, they really grew this year. It's like, I don't know, did they? Or did they just add Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis? Like, they've been really fucking good for 8 years. Like, they finally broke through, and they're gonna keep winning championships. I mean, that's what's gonna happen. And you know I was right on that. Like, dead on the money. 2018. God, got it.
I think
Anyway.
you said that they were going to run the East for the next 10 years. And they haven't really run the East for the last 10 years.
Well, there's still 4 more years to go in this scenario. And so far, I mean, they've been to how many conference finals? And
They're a great
to
team,
2
and they're set
NBA
up to
finals,
be.
and they
They're
won
set
it.
up to
Yeah.
be. They're definitely set up to be.
Right.
Good
And last
going
year,
forward.
Celtics fans are complaining that Jaylen Brown couldn't dribble with his left hand because he had like 3 turnovers in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's like, what are you talking about? This guy is a 6'8" athletic wing who can score, pass, and defend at elite levels, and he never gets hurt. He plays 40 minutes a game. What are you talking about? And he just goes on this year to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP and Finals MVP. But you told me 8 months ago that he couldn't dribble. So I don't know what happened between now and then. But yeah, they're just another one of those fan bases, man.
You know how like some athletes like have said, like I think Brady has said this and like MJ said this, like they would make up like things that people said to like hate the opponent player, like to get mad. They use as like motivation.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're doing with sports fans. I think you're just making things up. That Celtics fans all said this.
They did.
No,
Dude, do you
maybe 1% on Twitter said it or something.
I will
Celtics
bring
fans.
receipts. Dude, Jaylen Brown was getting roasted by Celtics fans last year.
On
Look,
where?
I get it, you're
Twitter?
emotional,
On Twitter?
everywhere.
Or-
Twitter. Bill Simmons was like Bill. I remember specifically. I very much enjoyed that podcast. I don't know if you're allowed to say other people's podcasts or not, but I remember. So
The BS
last year,
podcast, it's great.
yeah, I love it. Even though he's a friggin' big Boston fan, like whatever.
Yeah.
I appreciate real fans, and he's an actual like real fan. But I remember it was after, because you know I love a good hate listen on a podcast. Like if you're a team that I hate and you just like lost a really tough game or playoff series, like you are on cue, baby. I want to hear you cry. I want to drink your tears, etc., etc. So last year, if you don't recall, Eastern Conference Finals, Miami goes up 3-0, right? The 8 seed Miami Heat goes up 3-0. Boston comes storming back. They tie it 3-3. It's Game 7 in Boston. Like the Celtics are going to be the first team to ever do it. They lose Game 7. And Bill Simmons is in the crowd. There's actually a pretty funny shot of him just kind of looking like starstruck, like ESPN found him in the crowd, and he was just like beside himself. And sometimes he has his dad on the podcast. His dad's like 80 years old, but like been a long time Celtics season ticket holder. And him and his dad were saying like, this guy cannot dribble. Like Jaylen Brown, he has no handle. He can't go left. He can't dribble. He's a turnover machine. Like these are, I will send you the podcast.
All right, I believe you. Okay, sure.
And it's like, this is a prominent, and again, that's one example, but you could have gone all up and down the Twitter machine.
Well, he may have been struggling with it though through a period of time, and then he may have corrected it. I mean, I'm not.
Well, he was coming off the hand injury, going back. I mean, I don't know if how much that was plaguing him with the recovering from a broken hand, but this is what. I mean, it's nitpicking to some extent.
I just don't understand why like that people saying that like upsets you so much. Like they said he couldn't dribble, now he's winning an NBA Finals MVP. I hate them.
Because it's like you don't watch. Like, what are you talking about? Because here's why. Because if Jaylen Brown suited up for the Philadelphia 76ers every night, I would be the happiest fucking guy on earth.
Oh, I'm sure you would never complain about him. No.
That's right. I would never. He could do no wrong.
Of course not. No.
But no, that's why. Because, dude, I talk about how great Embiid is all the time. I don't, come on. You got to give me that at least.
You talk about how he'll never win. They'll never win with him. That's what you say. Yeah.
That's not true.
You've never said that? So
don't judge me on what I say during games.
Do you think the Sixers are going to win a title with Embiid?
Do I think they will? No, I don't think they will. Do I think they have a chance? Yes.
Why don't you think they will?
Because I think it's really hard to win an NBA championship. I think the competition has gotten really good. I think the East
why do you think
now
but then why do you think the Celtics are such a surefire to just keep winning? I thought it just got really hard.
Because I think that they are the best set up. I think they're the most well-built team in the conference. I don't really know how you can argue that.
They are, but it changes. Anyway, okay. All right, I get your point. I see your point, though. You hate the Celtics. You hate the fans. You hate that they weren't being real about Jaylen Brown, and now
just appreciate what you have. That's all.
Appreciate what you have. Yeah.
Appreciate what you have. Anyway.
Okay. For that, U.S. Olympics.
U.S. Olympics. So really interesting stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed watching the basketball. I thought it was the most fun that I'd had watching basketball in a good while. I think do you want to do like consecutive games, like the Serbia game and then the gold medal game?
I mean, so I watched about 75% of the Serbia game.
Okay.
The last 75%. And the gold medal game I watched like on and off throughout the game. Checked back in later in the game when it was somewhat close.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. But before we talk about either one, kind of going back to the Celtics for a second, this idea that people are so upset that Steve Kerr wasn't playing Jason Tatum, like, it's so silly. Like, the team has all NBA superstars. Jason Tatum wasn't shooting well from the outside. Devin Booker was. You're going to play KD over him. KD's been playing amazing. You're going to obviously play LeBron. He was the best player somehow at 40. I don't know how. But he was the best player, and he was playing point guard. Like,
it's amazing.
Like why are people so upset? And then I've actually seen this stuff about people saying, like, oh, like Kerr's doing it to the Celtics on purpose, like all this ridiculous stuff, which is, I mean, this is what people get into.
Even I think that's Celtics fans. Yes, the Celtics fans. Right. Instead of celebrating their friggin' championship they won 6 weeks ago, they're complaining about Steve Kerr having an anti-Celtics bias.
No Jaylen Brown on the roster, Jason Tatum not playing, all that.
Dude, but Drew Holiday started for them, and Derek White was the first guy off the bench. So they're out. There goes your anti-Celtics theories. Like, what are we doing? He plays the same position as Kevin Durant and LeBron James and Devin Booker, and he wasn't playing well. In fact,
he wasn't
you go
shooting well.
back and look, right, if you go back and look at his last 2 playoffs, he's shooting something like 25% from 3. So
Well,
he's
that's
just
not
not
even. It's not even. It's not even. I mean, it doesn't really matter if he's shooting in the playoffs. The fact in the tournament he was 0 for 10 from 3. Like
right,
in the
right.
Olympics.
But same
It doesn't really
same
matter what he was
concept
doing in
though.
the playoffs.
Right, but I mean, the fact of the matter is he just hasn't been shooting well in highly competitive games for a little while now. So, and yeah, and the guy in front of you is Kevin Durant. It's like, what are we doing? What are you talking about?
Even
Anyway,
though Tatum for the NBA is probably a better player right now than Durant. Like for an 82-game NBA
yeah,
season, he's probably
I
better.
totally agree. I totally agree. So, Serbia game, I think. Man, that game was just awesome. I just had so much fun watching that. I think it's the most entertained I've been watching a basketball game.
That was a
since,
great game.
I think it was honestly the 2016 Game 7 NBA Finals.
Game 6, Knicks Sixers this year.
Yeah, yeah. No, but that was when the Cavaliers won. Was in Golden State that year. That game was amazing, but. Yeah, this game just had all of the makings, man. It was the drama. I mean, it's funny. The semifinals and the finals were like opposites, right? The semifinal game against Serbia, the USA is down by like I think 17, and they have to come roaring back. And in the France game, it was the opposite, where they built this big lead and then they let France chip away. Yeah. But yeah, that Serbia game, man, just so many. I don't know, the FIBA game is like so different. It's so weird.
It is.
First thing, I mean, great game from Embiid. He was amazing.
That's why that was your favorite game. Oh, that's right.
Well,
yeah.
no. So I'll tell you why. I think the comeback was great. No, I think Embiid was awesome. I found it weird that like it's no knock on Bam and Anthony Davis, but like they can't hang with Jokic down low. He's just way too strong for them. So, man, I was getting so frustrated in the first half that they would double to help on Jokic, and he would just find an open man for 3, and they were just bombing 3 after 3 after 3. It's like, why aren't we just letting Embiid stay with him down low? Stay home on your shooters, and if Jokic beats Embiid down low, okay, great. Like, he earned it. He got 2 points instead of 3. But instead, they were just giving him these wide open looks the entire first half. I thought it was nuts. But yeah, Curry obviously just single-handedly kept them in the game in the first half. And then Embiid goes nuts. I remember there was one point of the game where I thought like, oh, they're not gonna win this. And it was end of the third quarter. The U.S. had finally gotten some momentum going into the fourth. U.S. turns the ball over. Serbia ends up getting a 2, and then the next time down the floor, it's a 4-point play. So they had gotten it to like 8 or 9, and all of a sudden it's back up to 15, and it was Derek White being too aggressive on a closeout, which you never see from him, right?
And he barely played. Did he play in the? I don't think he played after that.
He didn't play after that at all. He didn't play at all in the fourth quarter, and he didn't play at all in the gold medal game. So there's Steve Kerr's anti-Celtics bias. He's no fouling.
If you're a role player, like the guy that's there for defense and 3-point shooting, all that role, and he's making stupid fouls, he can't be in the game because he's not. He's not doing anything. Yeah, he can't. Your role player can't be making stupid fouls.
Agreed. Yeah. So, fourth quarter is just awesome. Embiid has a takeover. He scores 7 straight points for the United States, comes back down, gets a block on the guard, and then he drew that. I don't know if it was an offensive foul or I think he had Jokic travel because he was just standing firm. So that was awesome. And then, Steph hit a couple daggers, but the moment of the game for me, like, I just like wanted to stand up and beat my chest was the Durant dagger. I just thought was just such a sick shot where
it was.
You could actually see Embiid try to come over and set a screen for him.
And everybody waved them
off. And Durant was like, "Nah, man, I got this." And he just vintage Kevin Durant crossover from left to right, sinks a friggin' 20-footer in the guy's face. Like, just really cool to see. It's just like, I don't know. Just one of those moments that you'll never forget watching sports. I thought that was really cool.
Awesome. I agree.
Yeah.
And you know what I liked about the gold medal game? I mean, I don't think anyone really like thought they were going to lose that game. But
Frank Ntilikina is what you like from the Golden Army.
yeah, Knicks legend.
Knicks legend. Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy texted me. He's like, "Do you know who France's point guard is?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. NYK legend."
That's right.
What a terrible. I mean, such a bad player. What a terrible pick. Anyway, the Steph like 4 threes in a row. That last one, like double T, like what? It was. Like it's insane how he made it. I don't know how anyone makes that shot. And the funniest thing about it, he's playing amongst these other NBA superstars, like future Hall of Famers, like maybe the greatest player of all time, like number of guys in like the top 10 or 15 all time, and you have like him. They're all just like watching him, just like take a fadeaway three, like just do your thing. Crazy.
Yeah.
That shot,
Unbelievable.
Really.
Unbelievable. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just think the only other thing that's really kind of noteworthy is LeBron's just he was just so awesome. Like I really, you're getting like older, sentimental now. Like I just kind of feel really just lucky to have watched his career. I mean, he started when I was in middle school, and just watching him at 39, he's still the best player on the floor somehow, man.
Okay,
like he can't do it over an 82 game season, obviously. But like when you have 6 games to win, it's like
and you have other star players that you don't need to do 100% all the time. Yeah, like he was the best player. But
yeah,
it's incredible. It is incredible. It really is. I think a lot of people thought there was a chance that like he would end up being relegated to the bench. Like Anthony Edwards would be playing. All these guys, younger guys, would be playing. Tatum would be playing. And
do people really
LeBron's
think
just too
though?
good.
Do they really think that?
Well, throughout the NBA
he
season,
did not
those
lose
guys are
a
better.
step, man. Dude, regular season, but when he was going coast to coast, he looked like he was on the Miami Heat. Like
incredible.
it's amazing. So
Yeah.
congratulations to them, man. That was awesome. But that kind of leads me to like the last thing I wanted to talk about is like, man, like they got saved from these guys who are just not going to be there for the next Olympics. Like, I'm really curious to see what the roster looks like in 2028 because LeBron's gone, Steph's gone, Durant's gone, Embiid probably not going to play. He said that he wants to play for Cameroon in the next Olympics. Who knows? Who knows if he'll have knees in 2028?
A back. Who knows?
Right. Anthony Davis will be 34. Like, I don't think they're going to bring back a 34-year-old Derek White. Drew Holiday's gone. So it's like, I don't know, man. What do you think the roster is going to look like? I mean, I think the locks are, Bam, Ant, and Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, like Jalen Brunson, Maxey. Like it's so, I don't know. It's going to be really hard to replace these guys.
Who would be the center? Like, who would be the five?
Right now it would be Bam. Maybe Anthony Davis. I'm sure people are going to tell you Chet Holmgren is going to be in the mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you're going to see Embiid in the 2024 or 2028 Olympics unless it's for a different team.
So he wants to play for the U.S. when he's like the 8th best player, but when he's like the 2nd or 3rd, he's out.
That's right.
That's your guy.
Yeah, that's my guy. Gold medalist. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if Anthony Davis. I mean, to expect Anthony Davis to be healthy and great 4 years from now is
Right. That's what I mean.
That's not really realistic.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think Chet's probably.
Yeah, I mean
the 5.
DeAndre Ayton. Like who else? What are even the other options?
Bam. How old's Bam?
Bam's 26 or 27.
All right, so Bam.
Yeah.
And then.
Like you said, Ant. You could
Well,
pencil him in.
Definitely, we mock people calling him Ant. Sometimes I call him Uncle. Just because like we never heard of anyone else called Anthony shortened to Ant except until
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards.
It is
But you could do it.
unique.
You could do it. It's okay. We'll allow
I
it.
just
So,
did it
but-
so people
you're-
would keep up. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, so he'll be the starting two. Yeah,
and Booker.
Booker will still be there, but yeah, Brunson as the point guard.
As amazing as Brunson is in the NBA, I don't think Brunson's an Olympic style player.
Yeah, a little too slow.
He's
Too
slow. He's not like he's decent off the ball, but like if he's not like your primary ball handler, creator, scorer, like with
Which
his
he'd have to
defense, like his value is not there. So
Yeah.
I don't.
Some would say that's James Harden-esque, what you just described. So we don't want that on the Olympic team.
he's an efficient scorer. James Harden's an inefficient scorer.
Prime Harden-esque.
Prime Harden wasn't efficient either, was he? I don't think so.
Yes, I think so.
I don't think so.
So maybe Maxey. I think Maxey is obviously super fast. Can play on ball and off ball.
Maxey could work.
Yeah.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Yes. For sure.
Tatum
We
will
have
be
an
the star.
anti-Celtics bias on this podcast.
Tatum will be the star.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown. Maybe Tyler Hero, my boy.
Oh, Gus. Cooper Flag.
Yeah. I know. We'll have plenty of time to talk about him.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing that I think, another one of my reasons for wanting to do this is because kind of what I was saying before, like when you grow up in central New Jersey, or maybe it wasn't even central New Jersey, but I feel like there's so many people who, like right now, there's a lot of Giants, New York fans that just live in and around where I'm at, right? My in-laws are all from like North Jersey, so they're all New York fans. Everyone I work with is like a New York fan. One, partly because it's easier to be a New York fan, but two, because they migrate down south. And three, I think like a lot of people end up going like to college. Like I know so many people who are from here, they went to college at Rider or Penn State, and like now so many of their best friends are the opposite fan base, right? And like there's never any, a lot of times there's just not that conversation. Like if people at work are having a New York sports conversation, I don't really fit in that well. I don't really know what they're talking about, and vice versa. So I think this is kind of a good way to just bridge the gap a little bit. You can talk shit to your college friend who's a dumb Philadelphia fan, and maybe now you'll know a little bit about what he's talking about.